Okay, everyone, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in today. We've got a brand new story for you, so let's get right into it. I remember the early days of my marriage with Sarah like it was a hazy, golden dream. She was the kind of woman who could walk into a room and just flip a switch. Suddenly, everything was brighter. Everyone was drawn to her, captivated by her smile and that laugh of hers that just bounced off the walls. We were picture perfect, or at least that's what I thought. Our relationship felt like something out of a movie. Pure love, passion, and respect. But life, life has a way of peeling back layers, showing you things you never saw coming. I was working my tail off, maybe too much, as a senior executive at a big marketing firm here in the city. Days were brutal, stretching on forever. But I told myself it was all for her. Every drop of sweat, every late night, it was all for our future, for us. Sarah, she never complained, not once. Long hours, lonely nights. "It's okay, honey," she'd say. "You're building our future." And I believed her. Boy, was I naive. The first little crack in that perfect picture frame showed up so subtly, like a whisper. She started spending more and more time glued to her phone, always had some excuse to go out alone. And if I even hinted at wanting to tag along, she'd brush me off like I was a kid bothering her. Then came the late-night texts, hushed phone calls in the other room. My gut was screaming, but I didn't want to be that paranoid husband. I trusted her, trusted what we had. If only I'd known what was brewing beneath the surface. A storm that was about to rip my life apart in ways I couldn't even imagine. While I was busting my hump at work, Sarah was living a whole other life. The signs were there, flashing red, but love, man, love is a blindfold. It twists things, makes you see what you want to see, not what's staring you right in the face. Every night she kissed me goodbye as I headed out to the office, and every morning that same warm smile greeted me, acting like everything was perfect. It wasn't until months later that I'd find out just how deep the lie went. Looking back now, I kick myself. Why didn't I confront her sooner? Why did I let those doubts just eat away at me without doing anything? But the truth is, you just don't want to believe that the person you love, the person you've built your life with, could betray you so completely. Not until it all comes crashing down around you. It was a Tuesday, just another ordinary Tuesday, or so it was supposed to be. I'd left my laptop at home, classic me, so I decided to sneak back from the office to grab it. Sarah had mentioned she was meeting a friend for lunch, so I figured the apartment would be empty. As I pulled into our building's garage, I noticed a car parked in our usual spot. Didn't recognize it. Not any of our friends, not the neighbors. I shrugged it off. Maybe it was just someone visiting another apartment. But the second I walked into our place, I felt it. Something was off. The air was thick, heavy. As I headed towards the bedroom, I heard muffled voices. My heart started to hammer in my chest, a cold pit forming in my stomach. I pushed open the bedroom door, and there she was. Sarah, in our bed, with another man. My mind just went blank. I stood there frozen, like a statue trying to process what I was seeing, but nothing made sense. They didn't even notice me at first. When Sarah finally did, her eyes went wide, like she'd seen a ghost. The guy, Some muscle-bound dude practically jumped out of his skin, scrambling for his clothes. I felt like I was floating outside my own body, watching it all unfold from a distance. There was no yelling, no screaming, no confrontation. I just turned around and walked out. Nothing. Sarah didn't chase after me, no phone call, no text. Zip. I got in my car and just drove. My mind was a total mess, a whirlpool of confusion and pain. The betrayal was so sharp, so sudden, I didn't even know how to react. I didn't confront her that night. Instead, I just sat in my car for hours, parked in some empty lot downtown, staring at the rain-streaked windshield, replaying that scene in my head over and over. How could she do this to me? After everything we'd been through, after all the love, or what I thought was love, we'd shared. How could she just throw it all away? But the betrayal, it didn't end there. The next few weeks were a blur of pain and confusion. Sarah apologized, of course. Tears, begging, the whole 9 yards. Said it was a mistake, a one-time thing, swore it would never happen again. But something had snapped inside me. The trust, it was gone, shattered into a million pieces. I didn't know how to forgive her, didn't even know if I wanted to. I felt like a stranger in my own home, the walls closing in on me. Then came the next bomb. One evening, I walked into my apartment, and there were 2 cops waiting for me. They arrested me right there, accusing me of domestic violence. I was in shock. Sarah had filed a complaint, claiming I'd assaulted her during one of our arguments. She stood there, tears streaming down her face, playing the victim to perfection. And the cops bought it, hook, line, and sinker. I spent that night in a holding cell, my mind reeling. How could this be happening? I'd never laid a finger on her, never even raised my voice in anger. But Sarah, she'd spun her web of lies so convincingly that I was trapped, no way out. When I was released the next day, I came back to an empty apartment. Sarah was gone, vanished, along with most of our stuff. She'd left behind nothing but the bitter taste of betrayal. But she wasn't done with me yet. The weeks that followed were a nightmare. Sarah filed for divorce, citing abuse as the reason. She claimed in court that I'd been controlling, manipulative, violent throughout our entire marriage. The lies she told were so outrageous, I couldn't believe anyone would actually believe them. But they did. My reputation was trashed. Friends, family, people who'd been close to us for years, they turned their backs, unwilling to even consider my side of the story. The legal system felt like it was rigged against me, and I was powerless to fight back. Through all of it, one thing kept me going: revenge, pure and simple. I knew I couldn't let Sarah get away with what she'd done. She'd destroyed my life, ripped apart everything I'd worked so hard to build. But I wasn't going to let her win. Not this time. I started planning. It wasn't going to be easy, but I knew I had to be patient, wait for the perfect moment. And when that moment came, Sarah was going to pay for everything. The idea for the gift box hit me in a moment of pure, quiet rage. Months I'd spent stewing, replaying the betrayal over and over in my head. Sarah's affair had left me broken, but those false accusations, that night in jail, that had left me hollowed out. But as I sat in the living room of the apartment we used to share, surrounded by the ghosts of our shattered marriage, an idea started to form. Simple at first. I wanted Sarah to know she hadn't won. Yeah, she'd humiliated me, made me look like the bad guy to everyone we knew, but I still had one thing left: control over the truth. I knew things she didn't, things about her lover, this guy Alex, that would flip her world upside down, and I wasn't going to just whisper it in her ear or let it become some rumor floating around. No. It had to be a dramatic, undeniable blow, something that would hit her completely out of the blue. That's how the gift box was born. The plan started with research. This wasn't going to be some sloppy revenge plot. It had to be clever, surgical, precise. I hired a private investigator, a guy named Evan, recommended by a friend. He was thorough, discreet, and most importantly, he knew how to dig up secrets people wanted buried. I laid out the whole mess for him, and he took it from there. Within weeks, Evan had everything I needed. Details of Sarah's affair, proof of her financial dealings with Alex, and the real kicker, evidence that Alex wasn't just some random lover. He was a professional con artist, multiple aliases, a string of victims in different cities, a well-oiled routine of seducing women, getting his hands on their money, and then vanishing. Sarah was just the latest in a long line of women who'd fallen for Alex's charm. A sick satisfaction washed over me as I read through Evan's report. Sarah thought she was in control, the one pulling the strings in our marriage, in our divorce. She had no clue that the guy she'd thrown me over for was playing her just like she'd played me, poetic justice in a twisted way. Once I had all the intel, I started planning the delivery of the gift. It had to be personal, something that would catch Sarah completely off guard. Her birthday. Perfect. She'd be expecting maybe flowers, a card, maybe even some pathetic little gift from some clueless friend who still thought she deserved to be celebrated. Instead, she was going to get something a lot more unsettling. The box itself was plain. Brown cardboard, wrapped simply, no return address, nothing to hint at who sent it. I wanted her to open it out of pure curiosity, thinking it was some kind of olive branch, or maybe just a random gift from some secret admirer. Who knew? Inside, I placed a beautiful jewelry case. Something eye-catching. I had it custom-made, polished wood, delicate inlays, the kind of thing that would definitely grab her attention. But the real surprise wasn't the jewelry box itself. Inside, hidden in the velvet lining, was a tiny recording device, programmed to start playing the moment she opened the lid. And the message it contained was one I'd recorded myself. My voice, calm and steady, filled the recording. "Hello, Sarah," it started. "I wanted to give you something special for your birthday. I know we've been through a lot, and you probably think I hate you, but the truth is I don't. I pity you." I pictured her sitting there, frozen, fingers clutching the box, mind racing. She wouldn't have expected this. She'd think the worst was over, that she'd left me in the dust and moved on to greener pastures. But this gift wasn't just about revenge. It was about showing her the truth she'd been too blind to see. "I've always known about the affair," my voice continued. I knew long before you thought I did. And I know about Alex. That's when her heart would really start pounding. She had no idea I'd been digging, no idea I knew the truth about the guy she'd left me for. You see, Sarah, Alex isn't who you think he is. He's not your savior, and he's definitely not the man you think he is. He's a con artist. I'd timed the message perfectly, building the tension with every word. He's been using you, Sarah, just like he's used dozens of other women before you. He's drained your account, stolen your money, and when he's done with you, he'll disappear, just like he always does. By this point, I imagined Sarah would be in full-blown panic mode. She might try to stop the recording, pause it, anything to make it stop. But the message would keep playing, driving the point home. I've gathered all the evidence, my voice continued. Every email, every bank transaction, every lie he's told you. I know it all. And now you do too. But that wasn't the end. The real twist was still to come. I know you tried to ruin my life. You had me arrested. You lied to everyone about what happened between us, and you thought you could just walk away, scot-free. But actions have consequences, Sarah. And now the whole world will know the truth. The message ended with a simple, chilling statement. I hope you enjoy your birthday. I pictured her sitting there, staring at the now empty jewelry box, her perfect little world crumbling around her. She'd realize in that moment that she'd never been in control, that everything she thought she'd gained by betraying me, it was all a lie. Alex had been using her, just like she'd used me. And now, she was about to lose everything. But the real genius of the plan, it wasn't just the message itself. It was the timing. By the time she opened that box, Alex would already be gone. Evan had been keeping tabs on him, tracking his every move. We'd timed it perfectly. Alex had been prepping to disappear for weeks, slowly siphoning money from Sarah's accounts, making plans to skip the country. She had no clue, of course. Thought he loved her, thought they were building some fairy tale future together. But the second she heard that recording, the truth would hit her like a freight train. She'd know that the man she'd sacrificed everything for was nothing more than a common criminal, and that she was his latest victim. And if that wasn't enough, I had one more ace up my sleeve. That recording wasn't just for Sarah. It was evidence. I'd made sure that audio file could be easily shared, and I'd already sent copies to key people in her life, her family, her closest friends, even her lawyer. By the time she finished listening to that message, the people she trusted most would already know the truth. Her reputation would be in ruins. I could practically see her, alone in her fancy apartment, hands shaking, trying to process everything. She'd try to call Alex, of course, but he wouldn't answer. Already gone. Phone disconnected, social media wiped clean. She'd be left with nothing, no money, no lover, no allies. And the best part? I didn't have to lift another finger. The day the package was delivered, a strange calm washed over me. I'd been carrying the weight of Sarah's betrayal for so long, but now it felt like a weight lifted. I wasn't angry anymore. Not consumed by revenge. I'd done what I needed to do, and now it was out of my hands. That evening, a text from Evan. "It's done," it read. She opened the box. I smiled to myself, knowing the wheels were already turning. Sarah's perfect little world was about to come crashing down, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. The next morning, another text, this time from an unknown number. "Michael," it read. "It's Sarah. We need to talk." I didn't reply. Nothing left to say. I'd given her the gift of truth. Now it was her turn to deal with the fallout. The silence that followed was deafening. In the weeks that followed, Sarah's life just spiraled. I'd expected her to fight back, try to salvage what little she had left. But it became clear pretty quickly that she was drowning. Alex hadn't just cleaned out her bank accounts. He'd left her buried under a mountain of debt, loans she'd taken out in her name, thinking they were for their future together. She'd been completely played. The private investigator kept me in the loop, sending updates, even photos of her. It was like watching a slow-motion train wreck. Sarah was forced to sell her car, most of her belongings, just to cover the mounting legal fees. The fancy apartment she'd moved into after leaving me? Foreclosed. She was now living in some tiny, run-down studio in a rough part of town. But the legal mess was far from over. The cops had started sniffing around her financial transactions, and it didn't take them long to uncover the extent of Alex's fraud. They traced the money through a maze of shell companies, all set up using Sarah's name. On paper, it looked like she was in on the whole scheme, even though she'd been clueless. The media went wild. Sarah's face was plastered all over the news, headlines screaming, "Local woman linked to con artist fraud scheme." Victim or accomplice? Her reputation was toast. Friends who'd rallied around her during our divorce? Vanished. Didn't want to be anywhere near the scandal. I watched it all from a distance, a mix of satisfaction and, yeah, a little pity. This was the woman who'd tried to destroy me, who'd lied and manipulated her way through life, and now she was paying the price. But even as her world crumbled, she kept trying to reach out. More phone calls, desperate texts. I ignored them all. I'd moved on. Or at least I was trying to. My life had taken a sharp turn. I started therapy, working through the pain, the betrayal, trying to piece myself back together from the ashes of our marriage. Slow progress, but progress nonetheless. But one thing still lingered, a loose end. I wasn't quite done yet. It was a cold, rainy afternoon when I saw her again. Didn't plan it, didn't expect it. But fate, has a way of throwing things in your path when you least expect it. I'd gone to the grocery store. Just a normal errand, part of my new routine. Trying to get back to normal, find some rhythm in my life that wasn't all tangled up in the chaos of my failed marriage. But as I pushed my cart across the parking lot, I spotted her. Sarah, standing by the entrance, huddled under a flimsy umbrella that barely shielded her from the downpour. Her once stylish clothes were wrinkled, worn. Her hair, always perfectly coiffed, hung limp and lifeless around her face. She looked nothing like the Sarah I'd once loved. Our eyes met for a split second, and I saw a flicker of recognition in her gaze. For a moment I thought about just turning away, pretending I hadn't seen her. But something held me there. She started walking towards me, slow, hesitant steps. I could see she was nervous, unsure how I'd react after everything that had happened. "Michael," she said quietly when she reached me, her voice soft, almost timid, like she was afraid of what I might say. I didn't answer, just stared at her, waiting. I could see the weight of the last few months etched on her face. She looked exhausted, broken, like someone who'd lost everything. I just wanted to apologize, she finally said, her voice trembling. For everything. I know it's too late, and I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need you to know. I'm sorry. A strange mix of emotions washed over me as I listened to her words. Part of me wanted to just accept it, let it go, finally put everything behind us and move on. But another part, the angry, bitter part, couldn't forget what she'd done. I've already forgiven you, Sarah, I said, my voice calm but firm. But that doesn't mean I'll ever forget. She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. She looked so small, so defeated, standing there in the rain. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. I never meant for it to go this far, she whispered. I never wanted to hurt you like this. I sighed, feeling the weight of everything pressing down. It had been months since I'd walked in on her and Alex. Months of anger, sadness, regret. But standing there face to face, I realized I didn't feel anything anymore. Numb. Sarah, I said quietly, you made your choices, and now you have to live with them. She nodded again, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek. Without another word, she turned and walked away, disappearing back into the rain. And just like that, she was gone. In the weeks that followed, I found myself thinking less and less about Sarah. The anger, the hurt, the betrayal, it all started to fade into the background. I focused on rebuilding my life. I'd spent so long consumed by what she'd done, by the need for revenge, that I'd forgotten what it felt like to just live without that constant weight. Therapy was helping. I was learning to let go of the past, to stop letting Sarah's actions define me. I'd been through hell and back, but I was coming out the other side stronger, wiser, more resilient. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was in control of my own life again. The gift box, the whole revenge plan, it had been a turning point, not just for her, but for me too. It had been my way of taking control, of reclaiming the power she'd stolen. But looking back, I realized the real gift wasn't revenge. It was freedom. Free from the lies, the manipulation, the toxic cycle we'd been trapped in for so long. Free to start over, to rebuild my life on my own terms. And that, I realized, was the greatest gift of all. I'd spent so long seeking revenge. But in the end, it wasn't about getting even. It was about letting go. As the weeks turned into months, I started focusing on the things that truly mattered. My career, my friendships, my own happiness. I started traveling again, exploring new places, experiencing new things. Picked up painting again, something I hadn't touched since before Sarah and I met, like rediscovering a part of myself I'd lost along the way. And with each day, I felt more and more like myself again. Moments, sure, when I'd think about Sarah. Wonder what had become of her, if she'd managed to pick up the pieces of her shattered life. But those moments were fleeting, and they no longer held the power they once did. One evening, sitting on the balcony of my new apartment, watching the sunset paint the New York skyline orange and pink, a letter arrived in the mail. From Sarah. I hesitated, unsure what I'd find inside. The letter was short, just a few lines in her familiar handwriting. "Michael," it read, "I wanted to thank you, not for what you did, but for what it taught me. I've lost everything, but in losing it all, I've learned something about myself. I'm not the person I thought I was, and for that, I'm sorry. I hope you found peace. Sarah." I stared at the letter for a long time, the words sinking in. Wasn't sure how to feel about it, but then it hit me. It didn't matter. I'd already moved on. I folded the letter, set it aside, turned back to the sunset. The sky was ablaze with color, the city bathed in a warm, golden light. Beautiful. And as I sat there, watching day fade into night, I knew my story wasn't over. It was just beginning.